In the middle of the hardest seasons of your life, there is something that almost no one tells you directly. Allah has not gone silent. He has not stepped back from your situation to let it play out on its own. He has not withdrawn his attention from the specific weight you are carrying, the specific confusion you are sitting in, the specific loss or disappointment or uncertainty that has been quietly shaping your days for longer than you can easily admit. He is not waiting for you to be more deserving before he intervenes. He is intervening, right now, in the thing that feels like the opposite of intervention, in the closed door, in the unexpected delay, in the moment of inexplicable peace that arrived when nothing around you had changed, in the stranger who said the right thing at the right time without knowing why they said it, in the specific quiet that falls over you sometimes in sujud, when the world has been particularly loud. Here is what this video is going to do for you. It is going to name 5 specific, recognizable, Quranic patterns of how Allah silently works in the lives of the believers He loves most. And it is going to describe them in enough detail that by the end of this, you will look back at your own recent months and begin to recognize, specifically, where He has already been. Not as abstract comfort, as evidence, as a way of seeing your life differently than you have been seeing it, and finding in what looked like difficulty or absence or unanswered prayer the clearest possible proof that He was never absent at all. 1. The peace that has no business being there. Imagine you are in the middle of something that should, by every reasonable human measure, be overwhelming you. The financial situation is not resolved. The relationship is still uncertain. The health concern is still present. The decision is still unmade. Whatever it is, the thing that has been keeping you up, the thing that follows you into the prayer and sits in the background of every dua you make, it has not changed. Nothing about the external situation has shifted. And yet, there are moments, you have had them, even if you haven't named them clearly, when something settles. Not when everything is fine, not after a resolution arrives. In the middle of it, an interior quiet that arrives without warning and that has no logical explanation given what you're still in the middle of. You didn't manufacture it. You didn't talk yourself into it. You didn't achieve it through thinking more clearly about the situation. It simply arrived, sometimes in the middle of salah, sometimes in the car on an ordinary errand, sometimes at 3 in the morning when you woke up expecting anxiety and found something else instead. Most people receive this experience and wonder briefly what it was, then move on. They attribute it to a good night's sleep, or a brief distraction from the problem, or simply the natural ebb and flow of anxiety. They are not wrong that it passed. They are wrong about what it was. Unquestionably, by the remembrance of Allah, hearts are assured. Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:28. The Arabic word used, tatma'in, describes a settling, a coming to rest, a reaching of the heart towards something solid and being held there. It is not the peace of ignorance. It is not the peace of avoidance. It is the specific peace of a heart that has, in a moment of genuine orientation toward Allah, been touched by His presence. And here is what makes this one of the most specific signs of divine assistance. It is available only through Allah. It is not replicable through any human mechanism. Money cannot produce it. There are wealthy people who have never felt it. Status cannot produce it. Success cannot produce it. The approval of others cannot produce it. It comes from one source only, and when it arrives in the middle of a genuinely difficult situation, it is not an accident. It is Allah reaching through the circumstances to let you know, without words, that you are being held. That what is happening to you is happening in a larger container than the one you can see from inside your situation. That He is present in a way that your anxiety had convinced you He was not. The peace that arrives when circumstances have not changed, the peace that has no business being there, is not random. It is one of the clearest languages through which Allah speaks to the believers He is working closest to. If you have felt this even once, in the recent months of difficulty, you have already received one of His signs. You just didn't know how to read it. 2. The door that closed, And what was actually behind the one that didn't there is a specific grief in wanting something and not getting it that most people have never articulated clearly, even to themselves. It is not only the disappointment of the particular thing lost, it is the sense of being overlooked, of having put your whole self into a request, into a dua, into an effort, into a hope, and having the answer be no. Not even a clear no, just the silence of things not working out, the slow accumulation of evidence that what you were reaching for is not going to arrive. This is one of the places where faith becomes genuinely difficult. Not in the dramatic moments where something is clearly catastrophic and the community rallies and everyone is told to trust Allah. In the quieter moments where you wanted something reasonable and good and sincere, and it simply didn't come, and nobody is making a video about how to understand what that silence means. Here is what the Quran says about those moments, with a specificity that should permanently change how you receive them. And perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows, while you know not. Surah Al-Baqarah 2 verse 216. The verse does not say, Allah might occasionally close the wrong door by accident, but generally gets it right. It says, while you know not. A complete asymmetry of information. You are working with what you can see. He is working with everything. Every downstream consequence of every option. Every effect on your soul and your deen and your akhirah that you cannot compute from inside the present moment. And so when a door closes, when the thing you wanted slips out of reach in a way that feels like loss, what the Quran is asking you to consider is that you are reacting to losing something you could see while being protected from something you couldn't see and never will. Think about that for a moment. There are outcomes that would have resulted from the thing you didn't get that you will never be able to observe because Allah diverted you from them before they arrived. You will never know the specific harm of the relationship that didn't work out. You will never experience the particular way that job would have compromised your faith over years of sustained exposure to that environment. You will never encounter the version of your life that unfolded from the direction that was closed, because the closing happened first. This is protection experienced as disappointment. It is mercy that feels like loss. It is one of the most profoundly loving things Allah does for the people He cares for, dressed in exactly the clothes that grief would choose. The Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, experienced the full sequence of this. What looked, at each stage, like abandonment, the well, the slave market, the prison, was in reality the necessary architecture of a plan whose conclusion he could not see and whose purpose he could not understand from inside any of the stages. The closed doors were not closures, they were the path. When a door closes in your life, the question is not, why did this happen to me? The question, the one that changes how you move through the aftermath, is what is Allah protecting me from, that I cannot see from here? And what is He opening for me, that won't become visible until I have fully accepted this closing? The answer is almost never immediate. But the believer who has genuinely absorbed this verse moves differently through the grief of what didn't work out. They move like someone who trusts the architect, even when they cannot read the blueprint. 3. The near miss you never knew was a near miss. There is a category of divine protection that, by its nature, is almost entirely invisible to the person being protected. You were protected from something you never encountered. The harm never arrived. The accident did not happen. The situation that would have unfolded if a specific small thing had gone differently, if you had taken that road, if you had made that decision, if the delay had not happened when it did, that situation did not materialize. And because it did not materialize, you have no idea it was avoided. This is the nature of sitr, divine concealment and protection, in Islamic understanding. Allah shields His servants from what would harm them, and because the protection works by preventing the encounter, most of it is never visible to the one being protected. You are walking through a life that has been, in ways you will never fully see, continuously cleared of specific harms that were on your path before He removed them. The delays that felt like frustration, the missed connections that felt like incompetence, the plans that fell apart at the last moment in ways that seemed like bad timing. These are the visible edges of protection that extends much further than what you can see. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught a dua for this specific category of divine assistance. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the trials that have appeared and the trials that are hidden. The hidden trials, the ones we never see, are specifically named because they exist, because they were on the path, and because they were removed before we arrived. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Indeed, Allah will accomplish His purpose. Surah At-Talaq 65:3. Sufficient does not only mean adequate for what you can see, it means complete, for the full picture of your situation, including every dimension of it that is invisible to you from your position. There is a specific quality of peace that becomes available to the believer who genuinely absorbs this truth. Not the peace of someone who is naive about danger, the peace of someone who understands that they are moving through a protected life, that the one who knows every path their journey could take has been, and continues to be, actively clearing the ones that would destroy them. You have been protected from things you don't know about. More than once, probably more than you can count. The evidence of this protection is the life you still have, the specific, ongoing, particular life of someone who made it through to today. Something that protected means you got here, and getting here is not nothing. 4. The help that came from directions you couldn't have predicted. There is a moment that happens in the lives of believers who are paying attention. A moment where something arrives at the exact time it was needed from a direction that makes no logical sense. The provision that came through a conversation with someone you had not spoken to in years. The encouragement that arrived from a person who had no way of knowing what you were going through. The opportunity that opened because of an event that, at the time it happened, seemed to have nothing to do with the thing you were trying to accomplish. The amount of money that covered the exact deficit, not more, not less, from a source that should not have known the need existed. These are not coincidences. And the believer who has been in genuine need and received specific provision at the specific time it was required, knows, even if they cannot prove it to someone else, that what happened was not random, and He will provide for him from where he does not expect. Surah At-Talaq 65 verse 3. From where he does not expect. The specificity of this phrase is important. Allah's provision does not always come through the channels you are monitoring. It comes from the directions you were not watching, precisely because one of the things He is demonstrating through the manner of the provision is that He is the actual source, and the channel is only the vehicle He chose to use. This is why the companions described their reliance on Allah not as passive waiting, but as an active orientation, as the practice of keeping the heart turned toward Him as the source, while simultaneously doing everything within human capacity to create the conditions for the provision to arrive. Tie the camel and then trust Allah. The camel is tied, but the trust is not in the rope. When unexpected help arrives, when the stranger says exactly the right thing, when the person reaches out at precisely the right moment, when the money comes from the unexpected direction, this is Allah working through human beings who may not even know they are being used as His instruments. He coordinates what they could not have coordinated themselves. He times what they could not have timed. He arranges what no human logistics could have arranged. Every instance of unexpected support is a message. The message is not primarily about the specific thing that arrived. It is about the one who sent it. He is here. He is aware of the specific need. He is working through channels you cannot see or predict to make sure what needs to reach you reaches you. And the person who has received this once really received it, in the sense of recognizing what happened and who sent it, finds that the quality of their tawakkul is never quite the same afterward, because they have personal evidence now, not theological principle. Evidence. Allah provided from where they did not expect. He can do it again. 5. The strength that should not be there. Here is something you have almost certainly experienced and almost certainly understated. You went through something that should have broken you, and it didn't. Not because it wasn't serious, not because you had extraordinary reserves of willpower that other people don't have, not because you handled it particularly gracefully. You may have cried more than you thought you would, may have needed more support than you thought you'd need, may have had more moments of genuine desperation than anyone other than Allah knows about. But you are still here. The thing that should have broken you did not break you. And when you look at it honestly, you cannot fully account for where the strength came from. This is the fifth sign, not the strength you built through years of patient practice. The strength that arrived when you had nothing left. The specific energy to make the next prayer when the prayer felt impossible. The capacity to be kind when the day had emptied you completely. The ability to keep going in the direction of Allah when every exhausted part of you was suggesting you could stop. Allah does not burden a soul beyond that it can bear. Surah Al-Baqarah 2 verse 286. This verse is almost always quoted as reassurance, as a reminder that what you are carrying is within your capacity. But there is something more active in it than that. The fact that what you are carrying is within your capacity means that your capacity was already known before the weight was placed on you. Allah did not estimate, He knew, and what you cannot carry, He does not place. This also means something about the specific strength you have displayed in specific moments of genuine difficulty. The strength that should not have been there, that you cannot account for from your own resources. It was given, placed in you specifically for that specific moment, by the one who knew the weight was coming before it arrived, and who had already prepared what you would need to bear it. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "No fatigue, nor disease, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick he receives from a thorn, but that Allah expiates some of his sins for that." Reported in Sahih al-Bukhari. Every moment of genuine struggle you have endured, not performed, but genuinely endured, is being converted. It is producing something, not wasted weight, but weight that is purifying, that is building, that is transforming you in directions that difficulty alone can produce, and ease alone cannot. The patience you have shown, even the imperfect patience, the patience with moments of complaint and exhaustion woven through it, is being seen and counted by the one whose counting is the only counting that matters. And the specific strength you found when you should have had none was His contribution to the moment, His participation in your endurance, His presence inside what you were trying to carry. What to do with all of this here is the practical question. What changes when you receive these 5 signs not as general Islamic encouragement, but as a genuinely different way of reading your own recent life? The peace that has no business being there. You stop attributing it to distraction and start recognizing it as contact. You notice it when it comes. You stay in it when it arrives. You let it inform how you understand the situation you are in the middle of, rather than allowing the situation to immediately overwrite it. The closed door. You stop fighting it as your primary response and start asking the harder question. What was on the other side that I was being protected from? Not immediately, not when the grief is fresh, but in the weeks that follow, when the initial sting has settled enough to allow honest reflection. The near miss. You cannot see this one directly, but you can develop the practice of assuming it, of moving through your days with the quiet awareness that you are a protected person, that the life you are living is not the unfiltered version of every possibility that could have unfolded. It has already been cleared of specific harms you never encountered. The unexpected help. You start recognizing the source beneath the channel. The money is real. The kind word is real. The perfectly timed encouragement is real. But the one who coordinated all of it is more real than any of the vehicles he used. And your gratitude, when it arrives, goes all the way to him, rather than stopping at the intermediary. The inexplicable strength. You stop taking personal credit for endurance that was given rather than self-generated. This is not false humility. It is accurate accounting. The strength that arrived when you should have had none was placed there. And recognizing that means the next hard season carries a different quality of orientation. not less fear, less aloneness inside the fear. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Surah At-Talaq 65:3. Sufficient, complete, for this situation, with these specific difficulties, at this specific stage of your life, with everything you are carrying. The sufficiency of Allah is not general or abstract. It is specific. It applies to whatever is in front of you right now. He has been helping you in ways you could not see. He has been protecting you from what you never encountered. He has been sending provision from directions you weren't monitoring. He has been placing strength in you at the exact moments when your own reserves ran out. He has been reaching through the chaos to offer a peace that had no business arriving given what you were in the middle of. He did not go quiet. He was never quiet. You are learning, slowly and across the hard seasons of your life, to hear a language that does not use sound. And now that you know what to listen for, you will hear it differently. If this video helped you recognize something that has been present in your life that you had not been able to name, if it shifted how you are reading what has been happening to you recently, subscribe and stay close to this channel. Every video here is built to give you the clearest, most honest account of what Islam actually says about what you are actually going through. Leave a comment with the sign that resonated most with your current season. And share this with someone you know who is in the middle of something difficult and has started to feel like they are in it alone. They are not alone. Neither are you. He has never been more present than He is in exactly the kind of season you are walking through right now.